In the middle of the night, all was silent. The vast palace had only one small lamp lit, and moonlight poured in through the intricately carved doors and windows, casting a sacred glow upon the wide jade bed. Light gauze curtains floated on all sides, vaguely shrouding the figure lying still on the bed. To guard against Huan, Cheng Yu slept in his clothes. He had always been devoted to cultivating the heartless divine path, constantly absorbing the essence of heaven and earth even in his sleep. After this ordeal, his cultivation was indeed damaged, hurting his foundation, but at the same time, he seemed to have comprehended something else. With just a little more time, he would surely break through to the immortal realm. However, before he could finish his thoughts, a sudden weight pressed upon him. He, who was cultivating diligently in his spiritual consciousness, instantly awoke, his thick, long eyelashes trembling slightly, yet he did not open his eyes. He knew without thinking that it must be that hooligan woman going back on her word, attempting to take advantage of him while he was asleep. Cheng Yu's breathing became slightly heavier, and his body grew stiffer. Fine, if she was just taking some liberties, then let her be. He would just pretend he was nibbled by a fish in a pond. So Huan happily lay on him, sniffing left and right, just like a little wolf cub. The moonlight was cool and clear. The immortal possessed skin of ice and bones of jade. Huan quietly arched her back, stealthily tugging at his impeccably neat silver-stitched collar. However, the dustless garment was exquisitely made, the splendid white robes fitting him perfectly, leaving no opening for her. Nevertheless, Huan was full of vigor, huffing and puffing. After much effort, she finally managed to pry open a small gap. She immediately leaned in impatiently, her pert nose nestling into his hollowed collarbone, taking a deep, almost mesmerized breath, irresistibly immersed in the cool, clear scent emanating from him. Actually, when Huan first smelled this faint, subtle fragrance, she was quite puzzled. How could Lord Cheng Yu carry such a scent? Was he born with a unique constitution? Later, Huan stopped bothering to find a reason, because she found herself utterly obsessed with his scent. That faint fragrance, emanating from his very bones, was constantly tempting her to commit a crime, like aged, mellow wine, both intoxicating and desirous, making her only wish for indulgence. Huan kept nudging and burrowing against his chest. Still not satisfied, she couldn't help but flick out her tongue and lick him. Her other hand lingered on his slender waist, gradually trailing downwards along its curve. Just at this critical moment, her paw was suddenly gripped fiercely by a cold hand. In the quiet night, a sound of bones grinding instantly arose, the force so great it left no room for escape. Her head, previously buried in his chest, paused. Huan abruptly looked up and met a face clearly etched with anger. The person who had just been in deep sleep was now fully awake. He slightly narrowed his jaw, and light and shadow traced upward along his graceful lines, gently passing over his tightly pursed thin lips, finally settling into those deep eyes, as clear and cold as an icy pond, sending shivers down one's spine. Of course, Huan, whose eyes were already blinded by beauty, had no such concerns. At this moment, she only felt that he looked 1,000,000 times better than anyone else, even when angry. You're awake? It's good you're awake. It's no fun pretending to be dead all the time. Cheng Yu looked at her expressionlessly, not moving a muscle, only his hand tightened more and more, faint blue veins throbbing at his knuckles. You're hurting me. Poor Huan's slender jade fingers were squeezed into chicken claws by him, yet she didn't intend to use magic, instead pitifully begging for mercy. Cheng Yu coldly gazed at the woman lying on his chest. It was a face as alluring as a succubus, yet she deliberately put on a tearful expression. But even so, the coquetry in the corners of her eyes showed no restraint. Instead, it wantonly spread, bit by bit, stirring people's hearts. You said that as a girl, you wouldn't be so shameless. Cheng Yu slightly loosened his grip, and his deep, cold voice slowly flowed from his throat. To Huan's ears, it was even more pleasant than the jade chime in front of her palace gates. She chuckled foolishly, twisting her body, and couldn't help but lower her head to sniff him again. You're too fragrant. Shameless be shameless, for you. This empress accepts it. The dignified palace master of Huan Palace, do you still care about your reputation? My reputation isn't as important as you. Huan, unable to bear it any longer, Cheng Yu clamped his hand around her slender neck, lifting her directly off his chest. Don't go too far. The icy fingertips, upon suddenly touching her warm, hot neck, sent a shiver through Huan, instantly clearing her head quite a bit. She glared angrily, then plunged down like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey, her hands braced on either side of his shoulders, her her nose almost touching his high-bridged nose. So what if I'm going too far? You're mine to begin with. Is it wrong for me to just want to kiss and hug you? You won't let me do this. You won't let me do that. If this keeps up, I'm really going to get angry. Cough, cough, cough. My jade love. The Immortal's brows furrowed slightly, his long eye line facing the moonlight, outlining a pure and exquisite curve, yet giving off a fragile beauty, as if in a dream. Huan instantly lost her temper, calling out his name with pained urgency, her voice involuntarily softening. Yu, are you all right? I was just joking. Cheng Yu simply closed his eyes, his long eyelashes casting a faint shadow on his eyelids. Huan's gaze gradually became hazy. She couldn't help but reach out to stroke his ice jade-like face. When her fingertips touched that hint of suppressed flush, her breath suddenly hitched. She unconsciously swallowed, no longer caring about anything else, and pouted her lips, kissing him. Cheng Yu abruptly opened his eyes, pressing his palm against her half-covered, half-bare shoulder. Can we finally sleep tonight? Huan had just tasted a hint of sweetness when she was ruthlessly interrupted. It was like scratching an itch through a boot, making her even more eager. Her face was practically screaming unsatisfied desire. Yu, just let me kiss you. We'll kiss once and then go to sleep? Okay, Yu. Her body twisted like a snake, constantly rubbing against him in his embrace, entangling him and making his anger rise. Along with her incessant whimpering, Cheng Yu's breathing grew more rapid. Suddenly, he reached out and clasped the back of her head, swallowing all her infatuation. The air instantly fell silent. Though it was only for a brief moment, Huan still glimpsed the beauty of an ice lotus blossoming, captivating her, leaving her almost dazed and mesmerized. Sleep. Cheng Yu restrained her smooth, slender waist, his lips stained with lingering crystalline moisture, commanding her without any emotion. Huan blinked, then shyly nestled into his arms, like a sated cat, completely curled up against him, incredibly obedient. Sleep? Yu, love you. Early the next morning, a crowd of demonic leaders gathered in front of the Huan palace gates, making a lively and boisterous clamor. Huan, come out. We agreed to jointly attack the Immortal sect. Why did the Alliance leader suddenly withdraw her troops? Bah, what kind of Alliance leader is she? A treacherous tigress. In my opinion, we should teach her a lesson. Brother Sure, please be careful with your words. It's said that Palace Master Huan hates it most when people mention her true tiger form. If anyone dares to call her a tigress, they'll be flayed alive. What if I curse her today? Sure Hong yelled loudly. I say, Scholar Yin, you're protecting that demoness openly and secretly like this. Don't tell me you've fallen for her. Yin Yu repeatedly waved his hand. Nothing of the sort. Sure Hong snorted. Good, if there isn't. The demonesses of Huan Palace specialize in draining men's vital essence. We're all respectable figures in the martial world. We absolutely cannot be seduced by them. After he finished speaking, he turned back and instructed his subordinates to continue shouting. Demoness, come out quickly. Today, you must give us an explanation. The outcry outside the palace grew more intense, accompanied by repeated thuds against the gates. It was clear things were quickly getting out of control, making Wu Shi so anxious that he personally went to the Huan Hall to find the palace master. Protector Wu, Chu Zishu was dutifully guarding outside the hall, instructing the maids to collect fresh morning dew, when he suddenly saw Wu Shi rushing over. He calmly stepped forward to greet him. Protector Wu, what brings you here? Wu Shi got straight to the point. Where's the palace master? Upon hearing this, Chu Zishu covered his face with a smile. Our master just acquired a beauty yesterday. She's probably still in bed with him at this hour. Wu Shi's voice sharply rose. The 4 great demon kings outside are practically at our doorstep, yet you won't even go in and inform her. Chu Zishu cupped his hands and smiled at her with his narrow eyes. Protector Wu, forgive me. You know our master's temperament. She has always disliked being disturbed. Now that she is Lord Cheng Yu, how dare this subordinate intrude rashly? Wu Shi knew that Chu Zishu was up to no good, always indulging Huan and never caring about the affairs of Huan Palace. Yet, Huan, for Chu Zhao's sake, had stubbornly kept him by her side, appointing him as a hall steward, in charge of all the daily routines and affairs within Huan Hall. His official rank wasn't high, but his actual power was considerable. That girl Chi Su had suffered many losses at his hands. Move aside. Wu Shi's face immediately chilled. She then walked around him, preparing to go inside, but suddenly heard a sickeningly sweet, languid sound from within. Spring nights are short, and the sun rises high. From now on, the monarch will not attend early court. Yu, I finally understand what that poem means. I am the monarch, and you are my demon consort who ruins the country. Yu, were you tired last night? Did you sleep well? Today, I'll let you taste my favorite morning dew. That stuff is very good for the body. Wuxi wished she could cover her ears. Only when the two emerged did she realize the palace master was completely draped over immortal venerable Cheng Yu, as if boneless, her star-like eyes never leaving her white moonlight. All right, she had to admit, the white moonlight truly possessed exquisite beauty. Dressed in a spotless white robe, he fully deserved the epithet, beautiful as a celestial being. Coupled with his cold, ascetic aura, it would be strange if Huan, that lecher, wasn't utterly captivated by him. Palace Master. Wuxi called out helplessly, trying to get Huan's attention. However, the person in question seemed to not see any of them, the unimportant people sticking devotedly to the celestial being. Palace Master. Wuxi had no choice but to raise her voice. Only then did Huan snap back to reality, frowning in displeasure, wanting to see who was tactless enough to interrupt her gazing at beauty. But then she met Wuxi's exasperated face, and her expression softened considerably. Shi, why are you here so early in the morning? Wuxi rolled her eyes internally. Palace Master, the four demon lords are dissatisfied with your decision to withdraw troops without authorization, and they're blocking the palace gate, demanding an explanation. Huan raised an eyebrow. Can't Yi handle something like this? Does it really need to be reported to me? Protector Qin said he sustained some injuries and needs to go into seclusion for 3 days. What? A Yi is injured. Huan suddenly turned serious, her hand clutching Cheng Yu loosening as she took a few steps forward. When did he get injured? Is it serious? That, he didn't specify. But was that even the point? Palace Master, you should still think about how to deal with the four demon lords. They're making a huge ruckus and won't give up today unless they see you. Let them make a fuss. My joyous palace's defensive formation isn't just for show. I'll check on Ye's injuries first. Huan strode towards the left hall, but halfway there, she remembered something and turned back to Cheng Yu. You go ahead and eat. Don't wait for me, okay? Cheng Yu's eyes were downcast as he stood quietly on the stone steps, his expression unchanged from start to finish. Hearing her words, he turned directly and walked inside. The hem of his robe, embroidered with exquisite silver threads, fluttered and swayed with his steps. Looking up from below, it was like a wisp of cloud, seemingly about to scatter with the wind. Huan was momentarily mesmerized, only to be snapped back by a loud slap from Wuxi. Palace Master, can you please do something serious? Huan, Tisked, pushed her hand away and tiptoed, reluctantly following Cheng Yu's receding figure. Shi, don't worry. This Palace Master anticipated those old dogs would cause trouble and already has a plan. Nothing will go wrong. Wuxi was half skeptical. Really? Of course it's real. As the saying goes, one can have both the kingdom and the beauty. Don't you trust me? Oh, right, later go and find out the whereabouts of the Duyo Qin for me. Wuxi looked wary. What do you want with that thing? I heard Yu loves playing the Qin the most. I want to give him a surprise. Who told you that? I dreamt about it last night. At this, Huan's voice became syrupy, her flirtatious peach blossom eyes narrowing to slits. Shi, last night, I dreamt that Yu was playing the Qin on Wushan Mountain in our palace, with clouds and mist swirling around. His posture with downcast eyes was so beautiful and elegant, truly lovely. Wuxi's mouth twitched. She barely suppressed the urge to beat her up soundly. Do you know what kind of Qin the Duyo Qin is? I do. It's that ancient immortal Qin, proclaimed to be peerless in the world. You know, it's an ancient immortal Qin. Wuxi pulled her hand away. Please, even if such a thing exists, it would only appear at an auction, and it's very expensive. Don't you remember how much money we spent on that spotless Wuchen old rag? Huan didn't feel anything amiss, waving her hand dismissively. Buy it. Money is not a problem. Wuxi, who had full control of the palace's petty cash, forced a smile, controlled her emotions, and patiently cajoled. Darling, how about we get a different Qin? One made of profound gold, guaranteed to be high class. Of course not. How could such a common item be worthy of my Yu? A banished immortal should have the finest things, Huan said with a look of disdain. Oh, Shi, don't always be so penny-pinching. You're using my petty cash, not yours. What are you fussing about? This money, if it should be spent, it must be spent. You can make anyone suffer, but not a beauty. After giving Wuxi instructions, Huan headed straight for the left hall. The guards at the hall door were waved aside by a flick of Huan's sleeve, and she then entered the inner chamber almost unimpeded. A Yi. Huan began calling out loudly even before entering, her gaze sweeping around the room. Finally, she spotted a dark, ink-colored figure behind the bed curtains. She quickly walked closer, dramatically pulled back the curtains with a swoosh, and touched his pale, handsome face with concern. You're injured? The young man was sitting cross-legged, his posture straight. His thick eyebrows extended to his temples, giving his delicate and harmless features a hint of sharpness. When Huan touched him, his long eyelashes trembled. He instinctively opened his eyes, moved his slightly parched lips, turned to look at her, and called out in a hoarse voice, "Master." Huan paused, surprised to see him like this. His face was already 70% similar to Cheng Yu's. Although their temperaments were completely different, his appearance was exceptionally handsome. When he was sent to Joyous Palace, he hadn't fully matured yet, and he was thin and weak, looking only like a proper young boy. However, Huan's eye for beauty was remarkably keen. She immediately took a fancy to this yet-to-bloom flower and decided to personally nurture him, keeping him by her side indefinitely. "Master, why have you come?" Cheng Yu looked at her with a veiled expression, then silently lowered his head. His initially joyful mood slowly subsided. Just now, the master must have seen Lord Cheng Yu's shadow through him again. Ever since that night, when the master began treating him as Lord Cheng Yu, he had always been someone else's shadow. For years, he had desperately cultivated and climbed, and even though he had ascended to the position of left protector, second only to one person, he ultimately couldn't truly enter her heart. He could be her servant, her male favorite, her personal guard, or even her most trusted minister, but he could never truly be himself. "How could I not come when you're injured?" "Quick, let me see. Where are you hurt? Is it serious?" Cheng Yu shook his head. "Your subordinate is fine. Master, please return." Huan straightened his shoulders. "How can you be fine? You're already at the point of going into seclusion to heal. You didn't mention it last night. If I hadn't brought it up, how long would you have kept it from me?" Cheng Yu lowered his eyes, moved his mouth, but no sound came out. After a long while, he finally whispered, "Your subordinate hasn't congratulated Master yet on getting your wish, finally obtaining Lord Cheng Yu." Huan's peach blossom eyes flickered. She tilted her head, staring at the young man's face until his cheeks turned completely red. "Master Yu, why do I smell a hint of jealousy?" Cheng Yu held his breath. "Your subordinate wouldn't dare." Huan gently pinched his chin. "I heard those two girls, Chi Su and Wu Shixin, caused you trouble again last night. It was just a verbal dispute, not worth mentioning." Huan chuckled softly, then flopped down into his arms, narrowing her eyes. "I remember, my Yi never takes such silent losses. Sometimes when he's willful, he doesn't even give me face." Cheng Yu's gaze paused. He was indeed the most difficult person to provoke in the Joyous Palace. Although the various Hall Masters were full of dissatisfaction, his cultivation was second only to the Masters, and especially in the past 10 years, he had been the Master's favorite. He never cared what others said or thought. He only ever cared about the Master. His short, wispy hair fell in 2 strands across his forehead, trying to conceal his intense eyebrows and eyes. The young man's body stiffened further. "Your subordinate wouldn't dare." Huan directly wrapped her arms around his neck, poking his chest with her other hand. "You say you wouldn't dare, but you're actually quite bold. Tell me, are you injured or not?" Perhaps it was because she was so close, but Cheng Yu's breathing suddenly became erratic. "Yes, just a slight injury." "You, Cheng Yu, how dare you shirk your duties at a time like this? What if those old dogs outside break in?" The young man pressed his lips together. Didn't Master also not go? Huan's eyes curved in a smile. "You guessed my intention?" The young man softly acknowledged. "The 4 demon lords have grievances, so let them vent. The palace gate formation can withstand at least 6 hours. It will give them a taste of our power. Once their momentum is blunted, Master can then step forward, threaten them with laws, entice them with benefits. This combination of benevolence and power will surely be much more effective than direct confrontation." After hearing his thorough analysis, Huan couldn't help but roughly ruffle the back of his head. "Yi, do you know what I like most about you?" Cheng Yu silently turned his head away in protest. "Master, I'm not a child anymore." Huan laughed, cupping his face. "Who says you're not a child anymore? Among so many people, you're the one who understands my thoughts the best." She gave him a loud smooch. Truly a beautiful and clever good boy. The corners of Cheng Yu's mouth gradually curled upwards, but a moment later, as if realizing something, he suddenly pulled it back, remaining quiet and still in her embrace. Huan hooked her fingers through his dark hair. "All right, you don't need to take Chi Su and their words to heart. I'll properly criticize them later. As for Lord Cheng Yu, he is he, and you are you. Yi, you are my left and right arms, not anyone's substitute, understand?" Cheng Yu was almost drowning in her affectionate peach blossom eyes. Long ago, he knew she was the best at coaxing people. Whenever she gazed intently at someone, it always gave them the illusion of deep, sea-like affection. Palace Master, protector. With a bang, the illusion shattered. Cheng Yu's sharp gaze shot towards the palace attendant who had suddenly burst in. The attendant, frightened, hastily knelt, reporting to the palace master, reporting to protector. There's a flaw in the formation, and it's almost unable to hold on. Right now, it's entirely dependent on Lord Cheng Yu to fix it. What? Huan almost simultaneously jumped off the bed. Lord Cheng Yu is also at the palace gate? Precisely. Huan didn't even bother to straighten her clothes, flying straight out. Cheng Yu's fists clenched tighter and tighter, but the next moment, he chased after her. Master, wait for me. In front of the palace gate, the enormous formation flickered in and out of existence, resisting wave after wave of impact from outside, clearly on the verge of collapsing. Su Rufeng, the hall master of Hanzhong Hall, who was in charge of cultivation records and magical artifacts, watched the slender white figure in front of her, cold sweat pouring down in layers. Formations were originally an extremely profound and subtle branch of metaphysics. A truly intricate formation could do more than just repel thousands of enemies. It was many times more powerful than a barrier. However, to become a formation master, one didn't need spiritual roots, but divine sense. A remarkably powerful divine sense. But such people were incredibly rare, 1 in 10,000. Therefore, in today's cultivation world, formation masters were a rare species, and formation techniques were revered as inherited secret manuals. To set up this formation, the palace master had made repeated visits, humbly inviting a famous formation master to personally arrange it, and specifically sent a bright and talented young girl to apprentice and learn the skill. For decades, their palace gate formation had never failed, deterring countless powerful enemies. But today, the formation, which could originally last a whole day, was in precarious danger in less than an hour. This clearly indicated a problem with one of the formation gates. Can you really not see any solution at all? Su Rufeng anxiously asked the girl beside her. She was a young girl chosen to learn formation techniques back then, a subordinate of Hanzhong Hall and Su Rufeng's direct underling. Hall Master, I truly can't see it. Lu Candu had a dejected expression. Formation techniques were so difficult to learn. She was not skilled in her craft to begin with. Doing some regular repair work was fine, but a really big problem, she couldn't handle it. Su Rufeng, disappointed at her lack of progress, tapped her head. Just wait. If anything goes wrong with the formation today, neither of us will escape. Although their palace master was usually jovial and easygoing, if something serious happened, no amount of pleading would work. Lu Candu's face grew even more bitter, on the verge of crying on the spot. Wu Shi, at her side, couldn't help but advise, that's enough of foam. The formation hasn't broken yet, has it? The palace master is already on her way. Let's see if Lord Cheng Yu can fix it. My dear sister, are you really counting on him? He's lost all his cultivation. How could he possibly? Before her words finished, Lord Cheng Yu, who had been standing outside the formation without moving, suddenly soared into the air. His unadorned hands manipulated the square formation blocks, moving freely between the various formation gates. The mountain wind stirred his silver-white hair ribbon, which intertwined and danced with his dark hair. Above the intricate formation, the Immortal's robes fluttered, graceful as a startled swan, as if he was about to step on clouds and depart. Every movement was so pleasing to the eye, every turn so ethereal and calm, like light, like the moon, like ice, like mist. Clearly so close, yet seemingly distant in the clouds. He's truly beautiful. Su Rufeng sighed subconsciously. Even without seeing his face, just his refined and tall figure was enough to captivate one. The cultivation world never lacked handsome men, but one so uniquely beautiful, so ethereal, untouched by the mundane world. There was only Lord Cheng Yu. Palace Master? Just as she was sighing, Lu Candu softly called out. Su Rufeng followed her gaze, and indeed saw the Palace Master standing not far away, her clothes disheveled. Who knew how long she had been there? Her round eyes sparkling brightly, staring unblinkingly at the area above the formation. It wasn't until Lord Cheng Yu flew down and landed that she seemed to be released from a trance, completely disregarding her image. With her clothes disheveled and hair flying loose, she rushed over. Yu. Without another word, Huan, in front of so many people, suddenly threw her arms around Cheng Yu. Cheng Yu just expended a lot of spiritual energy and was already somewhat weak. When she pounced on him so fiercely, he actually stumbled back a few steps. Fortunately, Huan caught him by the waist just in time, preventing them both from falling to the ground. Yu, are you alright? Huan looked up, one arm wrapped tightly around his slender waist, the other hand patting all over his body. You worried me to death. Cheng Yu was already accustomed to her overly dramatic flair. With a blank face, he let her hands wander. The palace mistress is worried I'll try to escape in the confusion. Aren't you? Huan giggled at him, reining herself in slightly. Not at all. I just didn't expect you to be so kind to me, actually willing to help me mend the formation. You were truly magnificent just now. Cheng Yu slightly averted his gaze, unwilling to engage in such pointless chatter. I bid you farewell. I'll go with you. I'll help you replenish your spiritual energy. No need. Yes, there is. You, how do you even know how to set up formations? Watching their retreating figures, Su Rufeng clicked her tongue in wonder. Sister Shi, why does our palace master's demeanor become so exaggerated when it comes to Lord Cheng Yu? You ask me, who am I supposed to ask? Wu Shi shrugged. You'll get used to it eventually. Su Rufeng sighed deeply. Sigh, I wonder how long the palace master's enthusiasm will last this time. Their palace master was always fickle, prone to novelty. But seeing her utterly infatuated look towards Lord Cheng Yu, she'd probably be obsessed for a good while. Wu Shi glanced at her. Instead of worrying about such things, you do better to figure out how to explain the formation incident to the palace master. Once she's finished doting on Lord Cheng Yu, you'll be the first one she comes to settle scores with. Su Rufeng gave an embarrassed laugh, quietly looked away, and happened to spot Cheng Yu standing like a statue behind them. Her delicate brows furrowed, and she couldn't resist a sarcastic remark. Protector Cheng, quite the airs you put on, only willing to appear if the palace master personally asks. Cheng Yu ignored her, turning only to look at the formation, now shining as new. An unreadable, dark expression was on his face. After a long while, he finally withdrew his gaze. From now on, the left hall will take over this area. Everyone else can leave. You, Su Rufeng raised her chin. Shi, look how arrogant he is. Protector Chen's temper is a bit strange, but he truly works for the palace master, unlike that Chu Zishu, who is full of malicious schemes. You two should provoke him less in the future. Meanwhile, Huan eagerly followed Cheng Yu back to the Palace of Joyful Union. The moment they entered, she impatiently tackled him onto the bed, her lips seeking his thin ones. Caught off guard, Cheng Yu instantly covered her mouth with his hand. What do you intend to do? Huan unexpectedly felt a cool touch, and a faint, fresh, elegant scent subtly enveloped her nostrils, causing her gaze to involuntarily drop. Her eyes constantly searched, and although her angle didn't allow her to see the full picture, Huan remembered how long and elegant that hand was, with a clearly defined bone structure like bamboo segments. For the first time, she realized she wasn't just looks-obsessed, but a hand fetishist too. Unable to resist, she tentatively stuck out her tongue. The instant that soft, warm sensation brushed against him, Cheng Yu withdrew his hand as if electrocuted. He calmly adjusted his sleeve, concealing the uncontrollable tingle in his palm. You, I just wanted to infuse you with spiritual energy. Huan explained sincerely, continuing to press her body against his, trying to burrow closer. No need. Cheng Yu firmly restrained the predatory woman on top of him. Even as she thrashed, he remained unmoving. How can there be no need? You're so weak, what if you faint? You, I'm doing this for your own good, and I promise not to take advantage of you. Cheng Yu simply closed his eyes, completely ignoring her nonsensical babble. However, her mischievous intentions unwavering, she continued to pester him endlessly. This didn't last long before Cheng Yu suddenly rose, flipping her over and pinning her beneath him. Huan froze, startled by the sudden change, but then an ill-timed sense of excitement welled up. Although she preferred to take the initiative, if she could be dominantly pinned by Lord Cheng Yu like this, she wouldn't mind at all. Palace mistress, I have something to discuss with you. Huan's eye sparkled. All right, whatever you want to discuss, I'll agree. A faint frown touched Cheng Yu's face. He was about to prop himself up to get off, but Huan, quick as a flash, wrapped her arms around his neck. What are you getting up for? Cheng Yu's elegant brows furrowed slightly. How can we discuss things if I don't get up? Huan hugged him even tighter, holding his lean waist firmly, and whispered intimately into his ear. I'll only discuss things with you right here. Her usual attire was already light, but now she was even more scantily clad, her legs wrapped around him, as intimately as old vines entwining a tree. Cheng Yu's brows furrowed deeper. Since entering the profound gate, he had cultivated the path of dispassion, advocating for a clear heart and few desires. For so many years, no woman had ever gotten close to him. But now this vixen's every move was subtly provocative, constantly clinging to him, utterly scandalous. What's with that expression? I love you so much. What's there to be unhappy about? Huan couldn't help but murmur softly. Love me? Cheng Yu turned his head. Just now you ran out from another man's place, disheveled. And now you say you love me? Doesn't the palace mistress find that absurd? Hearing these words, Huan's smile grew wider and wider. Yu, are you jealous? How did she arrive at that conclusion from his logical questioning and rebuttal? Yu, don't worry. Even if I go to another man's place, my heart will still be full of you. Only you're my true love. Yu, since you know formations, how about you become my capable assistant from now on? I'll hand all those men over to you to manage. You'll be my empress consort. Get out. Cheng Yu felt he was insane to expect to reason with her. This woman was immersed daily in her own fantasies, utterly unable to communicate normally. However, Huan saw no problem with this at all, instead gazing at him with even more infatuation. The way the handsome man frowned and coldly told her to scram was just too sexy. From now on, they would flirt and bicker using the standard. It would definitely be incredibly thrilling. Palace mistress, Cheng Yu called out, his face devoid of emotion. Ignoring her lecherous gaze, he calmly stated his request. I observed the palace gate formation today and found many vulnerabilities. I hope the palace mistress will take it seriously. Yes, Yu, everything you say is right. I have some rudimentary knowledge of formations. If the palace mistress trusts me, I can do my best to try. Woo, Yu, you're too wonderful. Then I asked the palace mistress to allow me to spend 4 hours daily reviewing the formation books in your esteemed pavilion, in order to correct and supplement. No problem, Huan blurted out an agreement, then immediately realized something was wrong. What? Doesn't that mean we'll have to be separated for 4 hours every day? Cheng Yu's brow twitched almost imperceptibly. You agreed. I didn't. Huan hugged him tightly. Did you forget I never keep my promises? Cheng Yu's gaze completely turned cold. He didn't look at her, only pressed his lips together, saying nothing. For a moment, the room was so quiet a pin drop could be heard. Even breathing seemed to freeze in a silent mist. The standoff lasted less than a quarter of an hour before Huan finally gave in. All right, 2 hours a day should be fine, right? If it weren't for how unbelievably handsome you are, I would have eaten you whole long ago, Rar. Cheng Yu pressed down on her restless head. You roar all the time, are you a tiger? Who knew this would suddenly infuriate her? I'm not a tiger. I have nothing to do with tigers. Cheng Yu's head ached from her shouting. His long, powerful fingers immediately pinched her cheeks. If you're not, then you're not. Why are you yelling? Last time he said she was a dog, she didn't react this strongly. Huan gazed at his slightly impatient, aloof expression, her eyes teary, and explained incoherently. Yu, I'm really not a tiger. Tigers are so ugly, and I'm so beautiful. How could I be a tiger? Cheng Yu heard this and slightly raised his eyes, rather amused by her earnest attempt to explain. He pinched her cheeks, wiggling them from side to side, then finally curled his lips into a meaningful smirk. Whatever the palace mistress says it is. Outside the joyful Union Palace, wave after wave of fiend soldiers ceaselessly attacked the magic array. A circle of people lay fallen around them, temporarily unconscious from the array's backlash. Lu Ghosthead, didn't you say you had a way to break the array? Why have we lost so many brothers with no results yet? Hong swung his twin great hammers, shouting menacingly at Lu Zhongfan. Lu Zhongfan was already drenched in sweat, and Hong's bellow made him even more flustered. He anxiously stared at the inert compass in his hand, his inverted triangular eyes narrow and sharp. He clearly remembered the compass had disrupted the array's gates during the day, but for some unknown reason, those gates had suddenly returned to their original positions one by one and had remained unshakable since. Lu Zhongfan was utterly baffled by this. To restore a disrupted array, an array master had to personally enter the formation and make adjustments. Not a single step could be wrong during this process, or one would perish in the death gate. To accomplish this, the person correcting the array needed to possess an exceptionally powerful divine sense and a thorough understanding of array formations. But as far as he knew, there was only one young girl in joyful Union Palace who had been studying array formations for less than 20 years, and she was still a novice. How could she possibly have such ability? Even if true Immortal Wu Tuo, who personally laid out the array, were present, such an effect might not be possible. Could there be another master hidden within joyful Union Palace? Lu Zhongfan's gaze grew even more sinister. Lianhua had said that this array-disrupting compass could only be used 3 times in total. If there truly was a master in joyful Union Palace, wouldn't all his efforts be in vain? Lu Ghosthead, you dare to trick even me. Are you tired of living? Lu Tang, the most hot-tempered among them, finally couldn't hold back. She had waited from morning until night. The sun had set, yet the gates of joyful Union Palace remained utterly still. How could he still have the audacity to claim success? Before coming, Lu Zhongfan had eagerly egged them on. Now, they couldn't even enter the inner gates, trapped in that old hag Huan's territory, caught between a rock and a hard place. Seeing the other three members of the Demon Alliance looking increasingly displeased, Lu Zhongfan hastily said, "Don't worry, these gates are about to give way." Han's hammer struck with thunderous roars. "Enough of your damn nonsense, you." Just then, the magic array in front of the palace gates suddenly stopped rotating. The heavy gates slowly opened, and two teams of black-armored soldiers filed out, quickly spreading left and right to form a defensive line in front of Joyful Union Palace. The lights on the surrounding verandas flared. A youth in dark robes gradually emerged from the shadows, his handsome, cold brows encircled with killing intent, his pair of clear, glass-like eyes sweeping over everyone present. "Why is it you? Where's that old hag Huan?" Seeing a reaction from inside, Lu Tang immediately shifted her anger from Lu Zhongfan. Huan's stubborn decision to withdraw her troops this time had incurred public wrath. Everyone had been eagerly counting on her to tear open a breach in the Immortal sex, but she had quietly withdrawn. Not only that, she had even ordered the transport of spirit stones and exotic beasts to the mystic sex. Such blatant defection. Did she think they would be trifled with? As Lu Tang was thinking, she heard a bang, and a large pit suddenly exploded in the very spot she stood. Fortunately, she reacted quickly and narrowly escaped. All four were startled, then grew even angrier. Hong was the first to swing a hammer, also smashing a hole in the wall. "You stinking brat. You don't even have all your hair grown out, yet you dare to act wild in front of me." Cheng Yu took a few steps forward, ignoring his shouting, and slowly spoke 8 words. "The palace master's holy name is not to be insulted." Lu Tang had just recovered from her shock. Hearing these words, she couldn't help but sneer repeatedly. Indeed, Huan's good dog. What, is Huan herself guilty and afraid to come out? So she sent you to take the blows. Over the years, Cheng Yu had indeed risen to fame. Ever since Huan appointed him left protector and put him in charge of Joyful Union Palace's military power, his ruthless nature had spread throughout the entire demonic path. During the period when Huan's cultivation had just been crippled by Cheng Yu, Joyful Union Palace faced internal strife and external threats, beset by dangers. It was Cheng Yu who suppressed everything with absolute ruthlessness. Any demonic sect that dared to challenge Joyful Union Palace was brutally slaughtered by him in various ways, and the next day, it would be publicly announced to the world with great fanfare. Moreover, this person respected no one else, obeying only Huan's every command, making him Huan's truly loyal and devoted guard. "I say, Sister Tang, it's fine if you scold me, but why scold our eye?" A lazy, clear voice suddenly came from within the wall, growing closer. The alarm bells rang for the several people present. The next moment, a dashing red-clad figure flew out from within the gates. She gracefully landed beside Cheng Yu, her eyes and brows alight with a smile. Illuminated by the wall lamp, she truly shone with dazzling radiance. "Huan, you finally dare to show yourself." Hong roared, pointing his great hammer at her. In Huan's presence, the hulking man ultimately didn't dare to utter the 3 words, "Old Tigress." Huan chuckled. "Look at what Brother Sure is saying. What is there for me to be afraid of coming out for? You can't beat me in a fight, nor can you outscold me. If it weren't for the respect I have for you all as seniors, do you think I would have tolerated you for so long? You arrogant youth." Hong could not stand such mockery. Seeing his rage about to spiral out of control, Yu quickly stepped forward, placing himself between the two. He politely bowed to Huan and said, "Palace Master's demeanor in earlier years was indeed unmatched. However, times have changed, and everyone knows that 10 years ago, Palace Master's cultivation was largely crippled by immortal venerable Cheng Yu of Mount Xian. Since then, your vital energy has been severely damaged. If we were to truly fight, we might not be unable to make a desperate stand." "Master Yin is absolutely right," Lu Tang said, taking out her whip. "Huan, as far as I know, you haven't had a single match since your cultivation was crippled, have you?" Recalling the earlier strife among the demonic sects, who among them hadn't been defeated by Huan. It was just that after the farce 10 years ago concerning the pure yang physique, Huan began to retreat from public life, rarely showing herself. This time, had it not been for immortal venerable Cheng Yu, she probably wouldn't have allied with them. Huan was eager to gain popularity and was also wealthy and influential, so they naturally humored her and pushed her to be the head of the Demon Alliance. They had initially thought that with Joyful Union Palace leading the way, things would be much easier for them. Who would have thought that Huan would act so unpredictably, and, as a member of the demonic path, actually collude with the immortal sex? It was simply unforgivable. "It has been a long time since I've had a match," Huan said, slowly walking a few steps forward. "This palace has recently been looking for someone to practice with. How about one of you tries?" "I'll go," Hong had wanted to fight for a long time. The moment Huan suggested a one-on-one challenge, he immediately jumped out impatiently. Master, this subordinate will take your place. Yu frowned and stepped forward, volunteering. Huan smiled, patted his shoulder. Watch closely how your master wins. With that, she instantly turned into an afterimage, rushing straight toward Hong. Hong was well prepared. Swinging his great hammers, he began to retaliate. The stone hammers were incredibly heavy, each strike seeming to shake the very earth. Huan was as fast as lightning, cleverly dodging the fatal blow with a sidestep, then swiftly and accurately plunging a knife deep into Hong's shoulder. The entire process took but a blink of an eye. They exchanged fewer than 3 moves, and the outcome was already decided. Hong cried out in pain, and the other 3 men's faces simultaneously showed a hint of apprehension. Huan moved with great agility, yet as she turned her back to them, she quietly closed her eyes for a moment. That strike just now had exhausted all her remaining energy. Only then did she manage to display an effect almost identical to her previous cultivation. Although doing so was somewhat harmful to her body, there was no other way to deter these arrogant old dogs than with absolute power. In fact, with the strength of Joyful Union Palace, they wouldn't lose if it came to a real fight. But Huan didn't want a full-scale conflict. Whether it was a brawl or a war, winning or losing, it would inevitably drain both manpower and resources. Huan was very unwilling to engage in such a loss-making business. She had always said that she was a peace-loving person who preferred to gain the greatest benefit with the smallest cost. Resolving these troubles without shedding blood was, of course, the best possible outcome. Brother my apologies. Huan opened her eyes and casually walked up to Hong. Smiling, she pulled out her knife and, with a flick of her wrist, sprinkled a layer of golden powder on him. Don't worry, I know my limits. Your wound will heal within 3 days. She sighed as she spoke. Everyone, why bother coming here to cause trouble? Don't think for a moment that I don't know your little schemes. Do I, Huan, look like someone who would be used as a pawn? Of course, I'm not a good person either. I used you to build momentum and force the immortal sex to compromise. We're like frogs against frogs. No one should laugh at anyone else. You're the frog, Liu Tang retorted, displeased. Fine, I'm a frog, Huan said, flashing an innocent smile. Anyway, even if I'm a frog, I'm still prettier than you. You? All right, enough of the you me. Since you all have come, Huan, can't treat you poorly. How about this? This palace will host a banquet right here tonight. Good wine and good meat will be served to everyone. Let's all eat and drink well, and then this matter will be over. Tomorrow, at dawn, we'll still be good allies. How about it? A few people paused at her words, exchanging glances. Finally, Hong spoke. All my brothers can't have come all this way for nothing. Huan scoffed with a chuckle. That's true. So many of you couldn't even break a simple array of my Joyful Union Palace. All right, out of pity for your sorry state, this palace will give you an extra reward of spirit stones. After all, who makes money like our Joyful Union Palace? Inside the warm bedchamber of the Joyful Union Palace, Cheng Yu sat cross-legged. He had been constantly pestered by Huan these past few days, and his cultivation time had been reduced again and again. Even though he continuously absorbed the essence of the sun and moon, daily ambiguity with such a demonic woman was not conducive to enlightenment. Cheng Yu's brows twitched slightly. A face etched with obsession flashed through his mind, and he couldn't help but helplessly purse his lips. Many women had expressed their feelings for him over the years. Within his own sect alone, there were many female cultivators wishing to become his cultivation partner. However, he cultivated the path of heartlessness, destined to be cold and dispassionate in this life, always appearing distant and unapproachable. Over time, he became known in the world as an unapproachable high mountain flower. Yet this demoness Huan, audacious in her lust and utterly shameless, had naturally set her sights on him during his time of trouble. He was already a demigod, just one step away from godhood. He absolutely could not fail at this crucial point, which was also why he had intervened today. Array arts, which connected to the power of heaven and earth, if used properly, were indeed a shortcut to ascension. He had possessed a powerful divine sense since childhood, though he had never deeply studied array formations. Even so, it was more than sufficient to handle ordinary magic arrays. He heard that the library of Joyful Union Palace contained tens of thousands of cultivation methods and secret manuals, including long-lost ancient rarities like the yin-yang array, all of which Huan had collected in her early years. From this, it was clear that this demoness indeed possessed some capabilities. But just thinking of her flirtatious and informal manner truly gave one a headache. Outside the palace gates, colorful lanterns shone brightly. Where they had previously faced each other in hostility, a long table made of rosewood was now set. Maidservants moved gracefully among the guests, serving dishes and pouring wine, the table laden with countless delicacies from land and sea. Come, I'll toast you all. Huan raised her wine vessel and, with great swagger, downed it in one gulp. Seeing this, the other four also raised their cups and drank freely. After 3 rounds of drinks, Lu Tang suddenly proposed. I hear that Palace Master has been deeply infatuated with immortal venerable Cheng Yu for 10 full years. Now that Palace Master has finally brought the beauty home, shouldn't you invite him out for us to see? So we can all witness the demeanor of this foremost figure of the immortal path. Exactly, Shi Hong slapped the table. I want to see what kind of heavenly immortal that pretty boy looks like. Huan lazily propped her head on her elbow, her cheeks slightly flushed. Though her mind was clear, she was indeed somewhat tipsy. You mere mortals, are you even worthy of seeing Lord Cheng Yu? She slowly swirled the wine in her cup, then squinted as she swept her gaze over the 3 men excluding Lu Tang, curling her lips in disdain. Just look at your ugly mugs, one after another. If any of you had even a single strand of Lord Cheng Yu's hair's beauty, this palace wouldn't be so impolite. This bizarre analogy successfully silenced the group opposite. Lu Tang quietly moved a little further away, glad that she was a woman and didn't have to endure the personal attacks of this beauty fanatic. So even a strand of hair can possess beauty. Master Yin has learned something new, Yin Yu said with a sarcastic smile. Shi Hong was also very indignant. Where am I ugly? My women all praise me for being extraordinarily brave and mighty. Huan immediately scoffed aloud, supporting herself on the table as she stood up. Enough, this palace is in a good mood today, so I won't bicker with you ugly men, Axie. Palace Master. Wu Shi, unfazed, steadied her. Huan stood steady. Please entertain these demon lords well for this palace. Then she leaned closer and whispered. You and I continue to deal with them. I'm leaving first. Wu Shi frowned. Didn't you say you wanted to personally oversee things? Huan pursed her lips and smiled like a blooming flower. No, Yu is still waiting for me. To let a beauty guard an empty room alone is tantamount to a crime. Wu Shi, with a saintly expression, said, Lust is a knife above the head. You'll fall for him sooner or later. Don't worry, I won't. If it really comes to it, I'll just make a big golden cage and lock him up, then thoroughly enjoy my delicious treat. That's so you. But why specifically a golden cage? Gold isn't cheap nowadays. Fisk, haven't you heard of keeping a beloved in a golden house? What I'm doing is locking up Jade in a golden cage,